Hi, it's me again with Corel Draw Tips and Tricks, and this is the second part of this, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the focal length. I explained that in the first video, but if you wanted to cut through a 1/2 inch material or a 1/4 inch material, and you really can't do it, this person sent me a tricycle wheel that they're trying to cut. So I'm going to tell you about indexing dowels, and I've done this in a video before, but this might be a little bit easier to explain and how to do it and how to do it correctly. I've got this tricycle wheel in the very center of the page. I hit P on the keyboard. Now, if this was being cut out as a woodworker, I would use a router bit to cut out a pattern and then cut it out with a 1/2 inch material. With that said, plywood don't always route good. So you could sandwich this with 4 pieces of 1/8 inch material. Getting to that 1/2 inch, it would be equally as strong, but it's difficult to glue all 4 pieces together at the same time correctly and precisely and get this hole in the center. So you need what I call an indexing dowel. So I've drawn a dowel hole, and it doesn't really matter what size it is. You would have to even use your test piece right in here that's going to cut out. You could cut some test holes to see if that dowel, you want it really tight. But after you put glue in it, you could actually hit it down with a hammer. And then if you use 3 of these, when you glue it together, it'll be perfectly in the center. But there's a correct way and a not as correct way. You can't just take this thing and go, well, I want another one here and another one here. Because that would be work, but if you ever flip these around, they're not going to fit equally. Because if you put one here and then you flip it so let's make a duplicate, and you flip it, that hole's not equal to that other one. So let's back up here. So when you start, take your dowel and hit P and put it in the center of the page. Using your control key, put it to the top of the key or the top of the page. Now here's the kind of the trick. We want 3 of these. Make a duplicate of that, control D, and move it up 2 inches. I'll tell you what, let's back up here. Let's move it up 1 inch so it'll stay in the screen. We made a duplicate, let's move it up 1 inch. So I've still got a hole there. I'm going to take all this and I'm going to group it together, control G. I'm going to rotate this box on that center 120 degrees. I'm going to lower this back down that 1 inch. I'm going to make a duplicate and move it back up. Now I'm going to group all this together with control G, and I'm going to rotate it another 120 degrees. Now you move this back, group all this together, and these holes are perfect. No matter if you flip them over, they're in the exact position. And we'll just kind of do a test here. I'm going to make a complete duplicate of this, and I'm going to mirror it, and my holes are in the exact same spot. So if you're sanding this off and when you're gluing it together, you can't glue it up wrong. You couldn't even glue it up. A lot of times when I do something like this, I have to make a mark so I know what's top. This way, it doesn't matter. It's an equal wheel, and you could rotate it. So we've got a copy, right? Let's rotate it 120 degrees. Well, we were at 180, but promise me it works. So that one's at 0. Let's rotate it 120. We're at 120. My holes are still on top of each other. So use indexing dowels to make wood thicker than you can cut through. And it's going to be a lot prettier cut. You could possibly cut through 1/2 inch birch plywood, but the edges are going to be so black, you're not going to be able to sand them off, especially in a case like this where they're round. If this was going to be a real wheel, it would just not work. Anyway, I hope that helped a little bit, and thank you for watching.